Have you heard any good Noah and the Ark jokes lately? Do you need an ark? Do you need an ark? I know a guy. Why couldn't Noah see the animals on that boat? Because it was the ark.
Dark.
And what animal did Noah most regret bringing onto the ark? It was, of course, the woodpecker. Sisters and brothers, today's first reading from the book of Genesis gives us that beautiful story of Noah and the ark. Of how it was that God established God's covenant, a relationship with Noah and Noah's family. That's what that story is all about. Which is why our ancient ancestors told their children that every time that they saw in the sky a rainbow, it was a sign of God's covenant, of God's relationship with us, of God's promise to be with us, even through the floods and the storms of life. Yes, long before rainbows were symbol of pride, long before rainbows were a symbol of the Catholic Cursillo or charismatic renewal, rainbows were a symbol of God's faithfulness, of God's covenant. That in the same way that God protected Noah and Noah's family, God was going to protect us as well. That story of Noah and the ark, of the rainbow, is really a story of covenant, of our relationship with God. And that's what Jesus was focused on in today's gospel. When Jesus went out into the desert for how many days? 40. How many days was Noah in the ark? 40. Huh. When Jesus went into the desert for 40 days, a biblical number of testing, it was a time for him to grow in his relationship with God and to prepare to serve those around him. Sisters and brothers, I think Lent is best seen through that lens of us following that tradition of Noah and the ark, 40 days of testing, of Jesus being in the desert for 40 days of testing himself. For those of us who've endured the winter storms of this week and still find ourselves in the dark valley of a pandemic, it's a time of testing for us too. Amen? But the scriptures tell us that we are like fire-tried gold. We're like gold, and what does fire do to the gold? It only makes it stronger and more pure. That's why Jesus was in the desert, becoming fire-tried gold. And that's why we take 40 days every year to go into the desert with Jesus, so that we too might become fire-tried gold. Focusing more on our relationship with God and more on our relationship with all those people who share this earth with us. Lent is less about giving things up. Isn't that how we're programmed to think as Catholics? What are you giving up for Lent? What are you giving up for Lent? Oh, I'm giving up candy. I'm giving up chocolate. I'm giving up soda. I'm giving up cigarettes. That's not what Lent is about. Lent is about growing in our relationship with God. And if giving up candy helps you to grow in your relationship with God, then give up candy. But otherwise, maybe the challenge of this Lent is for us to find other ways to grow in our relationship with God than giving up soda. Maybe Lent is for us a time to focus on growing in our relationship with God, of taking some time for prayer in the morning, or before a meal, or at night, or even better, throughout the day, seeing what we do as prayer. Maybe Lent for us could be a time of growing in our relationship with others, of sharing a little more time with others, reaching out through phone or text message or Facebook to be able to share our love and our concern for others. That would help us to grow in our relationship with God and others during Lent a lot more than giving up chocolate. Sisters and brothers, in today's second reading, the person writing in Peter's name and in Peter's spirit talks to us about that story of Noah and brings it into the current day. Saying that in the same way that Noah many years ago was saved through the waters of the flood, we are saved through baptism. Did you hear that? Today's second reading, so beautifully proclaimed by Mario. God has saved us through baptism. The waters of baptism have saved us. We're like Noah. And now it's time for us to focus on being children of God and brothers and sisters to all those people around us. The ones that we like and the ones that we like a little less. Amen? That would be a good Lent. Sisters and brothers, do you notice the symbol in front of the altar? Lent will end with Jesus dying on a cross. That instrument of execution, which has two beams, one facing up and one going toward those around us. During this time of Lent, may we find ourselves growing in our relationship with God, growing with those around us, and being faithful followers of Him who died on the cross.